Hello and welcome to another Lombardi Live show, we're calling it. I'm here with a gentleman who was sitting at this exact same area with a drum seat and a practice pad taking all kinds of abuse just a few minutes ago, and I can't thank him enough. Scott Pellegrom, thank you for joining me here.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough for kicking my butt and kind of greasing up the gears a bit. I learned a lot today. I have so much to work on. I won't be able to sleep on my flight home. I booked a red eye so I could sleep. I won't be able to now. You have me just worked up and excited. So thanks for having me here and kicking my butt.
What he's talking about is in earlier conversations we had before Scott came out, I told him that one of the things on my bucket list was documenting all of the lessons I took with Freddie Gruber and putting it into a series of courses and exercises. And we started talking about a few of them. Mm-hmm. And you said, well, show me a couple. And the next thing I get a call back and say, hey, I want to come out and I want to go through this and I want to film it. And I'm thinking, well, here we go.
Yeah.
So and he's such an accomplished drummer.
I feel like an infant. I'm just learning how to crawl as a player and really communicate my ideas, my life, even learning how to have even better communication with humans. And when you have that, it's going to develop better communication as an instrumentalist, I think, too. Because some players, you go, holy cow, what they just did in 5 seconds is something no one can accomplish in a lifetime, right? But we also realize, we know what we're thinking and communicating and feeling, but we need to communicate that to the audience. And we also have to allow them to have their own opinions and views about what's happening and how it affects them. So we do need to have that breath, that rest, that smile, maybe a little pain, maybe a little anger, a little anxiety, right? And that's where it's at. So life is a big thing for me. And now it's like I'm almost 40. And now I'm just starting to feel like I think I'm kind of picking up on what this music thing is about. Now I'm looking, oh man, I can't wait to see where I'll be when I'm 60, 80. It's just getting better and better now. And that's what's so inspiring to me,
Yeah, I've seen so many changes in my life through the year.
I can only imagine.
Talking about these people that are history to you who I actually heard.
yeah, you heard or you worked with, and that's part of the legacies and the generation sharing with one another and passing on and making sure that pure source keeps being passed on. Because we do. It's beautiful that we have everything that's going on online and that people from all around the world can communicate and connect, and people that may not have had a shot to be discovered, they can. But we are missing the side too that, it is a bit of an airbrush life. You don't know how long it took them to develop that solo, that fill, or how many takes they did to that song, what they program. What is real is when you get into person, you see the shows, you go to clinics, you take lessons, you meet people, you shake hands, you have dinners, you have a coffee time, and that's where you really learn. And for me, my whole thing is I want to always get to the source. And you were one of those people I saw. Whoa, you've always been motivated to study and teach and do clinics and come up with amazing instruments and connect to the world. You have that worldview. That 360 is beautiful. And you also get to watch all these players as well as teach them, So it's you have that source. And for someone like me, it's bring it on, baby. Come on. Pick me apart. I love it. As you'll see in some of the lessons, I get my butt kicked, and I love it.
In a very friendly way.
In a very friendly, you should have heard them earlier, right? Get this right or you're out of here.
Yeah. As you're turning your wrist, do you see this half of my hand going down as this half of my hand is coming up?
Up. Ah.
So you're not coming back like that, you're turning it out. Does that feel good?
That does. That's a different feel.
So this is when you're studying this stuff, you're kind of learning not only how your body naturally moves and the different hinges and motions, but kind of when your wrist might about to max
tighten up.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you understand the new motions that come in.
Exactly.
Right?
100%. Exactly
wow.
right.
Okay, that's instead of trying to force through what a lot of people will do and saying, can I play faster or harder? You're understanding now the next level. For
exactly.
This. Wow. Okay, that's opening up a lot of doors in my brain.
You feel how it snapped it back up?
Yeah. This is what I'm going to be working on. People are going to go nuts on my way home. Starting to feel it. When you were doing it, I tried to just let you control me. That was the first time I've ever felt it.
We did have a really good time. You'll check up some of those lessons that we have here coming up on Drum Channel. Talk about your practice time. I wonder what the young kids out there think about the woodshed days and how you approached learning the instrument.
You know, honestly, I was definitely fortunate into the family I was born into. You know, I'm the youngest of 5 with a 21-year gap between myself and my eldest brother, Nelson. And, you know, my dad was kind of a musician. He would kind of sing around the house a little bit and you know, we'd hear some big bands and a lot of orchestral symphonic music. So, you know, I mean, literally from the moment I was born, I was literally labeled with a snare drum onesie, you know, and it just kept moving that way. And I was naturally gravitated towards pots and pans. And by the time I could kind of sit up on my own, I started organizing them like a piano from low to high. My parents are like, what is up with this kid? And, you know, my siblings saw that potential, and my parents did. And they said, well, let's get him some drums. Let's get a Muppet drum kit. Let's get some bongos, pots and pans, cookie tins, whatever. And then, like, I think when I was around 4 or 5, I got my first drum lesson from the drummer in the jazz band at the high school, Aaron Portinga, actually. And now I teach his son, which is really cool. So I always tell him, you know, you're the one that got me started with my first lesson. And then from there, you know, I studied with Dr. Joyce Smith, Tim Johnson, Tim Franchek, and Tim Franchek's daughter, Danielle, who's another amazing drummer. So from a pretty young age, especially like 4.5 or 5 years old to 9, I had just this insane amount of information that I didn't even know what I was doing at that time. This is how you play big band music, and I would do it. But the thing that really helped me develop was, like, I grew up during cassettes and you know, CDs were new. Those were terrible to play along to, by the way. But cassette tapes are great. And I would pull up, like Rush, of course. Neil Peart, 5 years old. That's the greatest drummer in the world, coolest person ever. And I learned all of his stuff by ear. And my brother would come down sometimes with keyboards, and he'd start jamming and be like, Scott, this is the groove, play this, you know, here's a Journey tune, here's a Kansas tune, whatever. And I just learned, and I learned by watching keys for the directions of when the song's changing. And it was really like kind of on-the-job training at a really young age.
And talking about, you know, all of your younger experiences, I think, you know, with the amount of incredible technique that you have, and the stick trickery that you do that's like very entertaining and everything, people have to realize what a versatile drummer you are in terms of how important that is to have a career in drumming, because you don't get hired by doing stick tricks necessarily.
No.
You have to fill the other bill. So at what point did you look at, I think I'm going to do this for a living? Was that a little older on? And
I knew right away. I was so damn stubborn. When we were in kindergarten and first grade and you'd get your time to draw, you know, or like paint your picture, like what's your happy life? Every time I drew this stage with this like Neil Peart's kit times like 10, and it was me behind it, and it would have all my friends who weren't musicians, but you know, I put them in, and those were all my pictures. Just every time. They'd be like, Scott, draw something different. And I'm like, no, this is it. I just knew that was it. And honestly, even growing up, which is funny because I want to say this to people, you know, I grew up and I was raised in public education, and I had counselors, principals, vice principals, superintendents, band directors telling me that you can't make a living as a musician. That's a pipe dream. You're ridiculous. And I even quit my band program, you know, and later on in high school and went to the choir program because my choir teacher was amazing. And then it got me into musicals and acting and all this stuff too for a bit, which way down the road where I am now has helped. And the on-the-job training is kind of that thing.
I hear that there is a rumor, maybe we're letting the cat out of the bag here. Somebody I know is taking some singing lessons.
There's a good chance, yep. You know, there's kind of the realization because of last year of slowing down and having to kind of reflect in, you know, is like an existential crisis for a lot of us because, yeah, you know, I mean, I make a living through music. I always have. That's all I know. But music is my living. My life is music. My friends are music. They're artists. They're entertainers. How we meet is because we are traveling and crossing paths. I see some of my best friends in a random airport in Louisiana or something. And when that was just completely wiped out, I thought, whoa, what am I doing? What can I do to enhance? I immediately kind of just said, okay, depression, let's not worry about that. Let's move on and get active. What should I be doing? Okay, I need to work on understanding miking and mic techniques. I need to learn more even about tuning. I need to get better at singing backup vocals because I want to get hired there. I need to learn how to set up and tear down a PA. I want to start tracking and recording myself. And I started saying challenge, challenge, challenge. And then one thing I came back to is there's two things I really loved to do aside from drumming when I was a kid, and it was singing and dancing. I was a dancing maniac. That's what I used to do when I was 5, 6 years old. My brothers would throw parties and stuff, and I'd go out and dance to Michael Jackson, and then I'd play drumsticks and put sticks in my teeth and like play around the kit and do this stuff, and people would throw money at me, and that's when I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I can make a living doing this.
Yeah, it was more of me saying, what are the different ways to make a living and accepting all the life realities of it.
Sure.
Because you do dream, but then there is a reality. Like, okay, if I want to get here, what are all those steps and things you have to deal? Because there's not a timeline of, oh, you do this thing, and next year you're going to be touring with everybody, and you're fine, you're making tons of money. It's not that way,
No.
For all of us, it's a different path and journey.
No, there's the lesson right there, I think.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at what we're talking about, though, as we see Scott behind the drum set here. We'll be right back.
Hey, Chad Smith here. I'm at the Drum Channel. Huh!
Hi, I'm Don Lombardi. About 40 years ago, I started DW Drums in my garage. During that whole period of time, I was lucky to get to know many of the greatest drummers and teachers of all time. Drum Channel is a unique opportunity for you to invest in your future, and we have made sure that it's worth it. So the way you approach, the instrument, when you do a lot of clinics and you're a great public speaker, you are kind of known for being incredibly creative when it comes to soundscapes. A lot of young drummers look at the instrument as being, I got a 5-piece kit, I tune them up, this is what they're going to sound like for the rest of my life. But you've been able to get 80 million different sounds out of a drum set. So,
Right.
Did you make that as a conscious effort at one point to say, hey, I just want to hear different, I want to be different, or I want to...
It was kind of one of those things, right? Because a lot of us, when we're coming up, we look up to so many amazing drummers, and what is their gear, what's their technique, who have they played with, and, the very basic thing, okay, you want great drums, DW makes great drums, BDP makes great drums, you hit them, they sound good. Okay, that's part of it. But as we were messing around with different instruments earlier, each little part has a different sweet spot and a different personality. And again, it was at first a lot of us get pushed into this drum world, you hold drumsticks this way and you play through the head and you do all this stuff. And then whoa, hey, there's a lot of different ways that we can think about technique. And it's the same thing with drums. And I mean, a lot of us grew up playing on pots and pans and banging on tables and using forks and knives and beatboxing. And how many times have I got stuck in the bathroom and I start jamming and people are like, get out of here, you know? And I think what it was is I was always kind of that way, but I was afraid to be that way because everyone was cool playing licks and fills and crossovers and banging hard, and like no one was doing that. No one was motorboating a snare drum or, you know, blowing air into stuff. And I'm like, that's just kind of weird. I don't know if I should do it. And just one day, I just said, you got to start doing that. And when I did it, people would laugh, people would crack up, people would start throwing stuff at me, people would throw money at me. I thought, well, hey, this is kind of a thing, right? It's not just about the sound of the drums, it's the personality of the drums. It's the curiosity of the drums. The fact that they have, I mean, every little nuance on this, you know, has a sound. So you're talking about getting bored or tired or worn out, and you're not inspired, then you're not allowing yourself to let the drums tell you what to do. You know, there's so many things. And I think what helped me harness that is when I studied with Dr. James Strain at Northern Michigan University in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And he had me look at a snare drum, and he kind of gave that note. He said, you know, go ahead and play a quarter note. I was like, okay. Play an eighth note. 16th note. Whole note, right? He's like, okay, right? The drums for, you know, you have to play it. We're not going brrr. He said, now if you have brushes though, you can shape. What's the move in a triangle? You get shum, shik, shik, shum, shik, shik, shum, shik, shik, sha. Swirls, ovals. He started to say, look at all these shapes. And then I was like, look, here's your snare drum. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There's your whole note. You can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. And when he did that, I immediately, I got rid of all my drums for the most part. I practiced in the dark with no sticks for a long time. Brushes, mallets, hands. Snare drum in the dark and or blindfolded. And I just went through the entire instrument, feeling and trying to figure out everything that's there. And then a little bit down the road, you know, when I hit 21, I was living out in Portland, Oregon. And this was a big part of my study. I had left Michigan, I was in Portland, Oregon. And my buddies and I, we'd go out, you know, having a couple drinks. And then we would go back to my apartment. I'd say, okay, entertain me. And I'd say, okay, what do you got in your pockets? And the deal was they'd just take out their pockets and throw a bunch of stuff at me. And if I couldn't make it work, they got to punch me in the arm. So we'd just be joking around. A couple of my buddies are pretty big, so they would just pull out the craziest stuff and throw it at me. And they'd be like, go! And I'm credit cards, lighters, papers, you name it, and just going around. And it became this thing where I was like, I just love that challenge. And that's just kind of how it developed. And the more that I started to step out and do it, it inspired a lot of people to be themselves, to play their way, to step out. Maybe they don't want to be a professional musician, or they're not trying to be the best drummer in the world. They just want to play. And like you sit down, and this instrument is beautiful. I mean, most of us spend this time sitting above the drums, and we look at it like right here, okay? We're always saying, this is our kit. But the moment you look at it differently, I mean, this is a much different view. Look at all the stuff that we could hit, all the stuff that we could play on, just from this side and then above. So it really got me thinking differently, and it got me also, when I was frustrated or not feeling inspired, I'd just try some silly stuff. And I'd crack up, and I'd be like, okay, dude, it's not the end of the world. You're going to figure out this exercise or this rudiment or this song, or, you know. So that's kind of how it came about. It was just like a natural thing, but it was really influenced by the way I was raised, you know.
And here you are so many years later, and I've got you back to practicing without any sticks.
I'm trying to figure out quarter notes again, yeah. I'm trying to learn how to hold sticks again.
Now I feel more guilty, right?
No, I love it, but that's the beauty of it. You know, I mean, you look at some of the most phenomenal players in the world. I mean, look at this gentleman who's just like literally influenced millions of people. He always started over. He cleaned up, right? You know, clean up the technique, re-engineer your technique. I always want to be refreshed.
Well, a lot of what we're going through is exactly what he re-engineered in his playing too from Freddie Gruber.
That says a lot. I mean, look at Neil, his career, his life says enough. And he still said, I want to get better. I want to grow. I'm going to strip down that ego and let's see where we can go with it,
Who are some of your favorite drummers, aside from Neil, who I obviously know?
Well, we have to talk about, kind of my upbringing and like my diehards. Like I could list you just a few people that are literally like my heart, mind, body, and soul drummers that are always going to be with me that I literally will watch. And back when I would like drink wine, I would drink a lot of wine watching these players. Tony Williams. I could cry listening to him. I can yell listening to him. I can laugh listening to him. He was just beautiful in emotion. There was so much emotion, so much passion, melody, even harmonies. And he had that, WTF attitude. Like he was going for it. You can even see that look sometimes. He was going for something. He'd like roll his eyes, then get at it. Billy Cobham. I got a chance to, open up for him a number of times during some festivals and got to have some good dinners with him during Drumeo. And he's another one of those pioneers. It was like, nope, nothing's going to hold me back. We're just going to take it. And then it's going to strip back. Buddy Rich, always. He's just one of those who so inspired me. The moment, I think I was about 8 or 9 years old when I saw a video, a black and white video of him playing. And I was like, this guy's a freaking alien. I just, that fire, that passion, I said, I want to harness that energy somehow. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But now here we are. And I'm relearning some of that stuff of how he worked. So those are the three that I really love. A player that I feel very connected with is Papa Joe Jones.
Fantastic.
Every time I can watch him, man, if I'm feeling a little gloomy, I pull up his solos and I just feel good. He plays, and he was someone who would communicate with the audience what's going on, or kind of even say, hey, I'm doing this thing. What do you think is going to happen next? And people kind of watch his eyes, and he'd give some little winks and some nods, and then all of a sudden, he just rips something out and come back, and people are like, wait a minute, what? And he knew how to captivate people and pull them in. He could communicate humor and emotion and trickiness and shyness through his facial expressions and playing. That's entertainment.
These are people you've got to look up.
You have to look them up. This day and age, I don't listen to drummers really. Like I research pianists, saxophonists, guitarists, bassists. I listen to, opera, or I'll listen to anything that doesn't have drums. Or if I'm getting into a drummer, it's a percussionist. It's not a drum kit player. So I always look at like Victor Wooten for huge inspiration. I look at John Schofield. Or one of my all-time favorite musicians in the world is Louis Armstrong. Impassioned.
You're hitting all different genres here, which is fantastic.
Well, I mean, dude, one of my favorite songs of all the time is "Walk" by Pantera. Vinnie Paul, man, that dude hammers it out. I love metal music. Like I'm working on a metal album up here, and I've been writing. That's why I've been working on double pedal stuff, because I want to do metal. I was raised with this opera big band thing, learning how to play the concert band thing, while I loved Devo, the Journey, while I started to get into Nine Inch Nails and the movement of Detroit electronic music and techno, while I loved metal music and punk rock.
And Louis Armstrong.
And Louis Armstrong while I was studying big band, you know? And that's what it is. To me, music is food. You know, dishes only get better when you start adding different spices, you know, from all around the world. And like, think about, well, where would metal drumming be today without Louis Bellson?
Yeah.
How many metal drummers this day and age right now, or even younger me, have been researching Louis and what, you know, all these other players are doing and how they used it before it became like a metal thing or like even a rock thing.
Double
right?
bass you're talking about.
Double bass is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, and then I look at people like, I read Malcolm Gladwell, or I love reading different spiritual text as well, because I like to research the history of music for life, love, and death, new birth, you know, all those things to, here's a code of the enemies are launching, or saber-tooth tiger's gonna come attack you, right? Way back when. It's really interesting to look at everything else except for the drums, because then when you come back to the drums, it just gives it so much meaning.
You're saying a lot of your life experiences, which I hear from so many great drummers, is what you're going to be bringing into what you're doing.
And it takes a lot of time.
What band do you have going on in your life right now?
I do have a lot. I mean, a big thing that I do is kind of, I have this like yin-yang thing going on. There's like people that hire me to be Scotty, kind of the weird mad scientist, color texture guy, right? And then a lot of, I would say even probably 60% of my work, I'm just hired strictly as, hey, we want you to sound kind of like this cat, or we're going for this vibe, or we need this. And I love to be a chameleon, especially if people give me references before I go into the studio or something. I'm like, I'll get into some player maybe I've never even heard of. And I love that. So I kind of consider myself to be like a human drum machine. And I do a ton of work, meat and potatoes, that's it. Grooving, simple. It's about the sounds, the vibe, the colors, the textures, you know, how you're playing and what you're playing, you know, and trying to say it's not about this crazy drum fill as it is about this really unique snare sound, you know? So that's a huge world that I'm in, and so I do a ton of freelance stuff. And then in my world, I work with a group called Airborne or Aquatic, and we mainly just do music festivals. And I have to give a shout out to Glenn Brown, because he was part of the Grammy-winning record with Billy Strings, who's all Michigan-based people. And Glenn is in this project along with Seth Bernard and a number of other amazing musicians. And it's a really big group, 2 drummers too. I love it. Nice. I've been doing a lot of bigger projects where I'm either the auxiliary percussionist or auxiliary drum kit player. I call it, I'm like the co-pilot or the co-drummer. And I love it because it allows me to see and hear everything else. But I mainly, you know, I work in a lot of wedding groups. Blue Water Kings, which is like this really cool group where there's a huge pool of musicians and we all know each other, and we're based around the Midwest. And then we get, like, I'm booked into like 2022 with a lot of that stuff. And I do a lot of that in the summer so I can stay home in Michigan, because I like Michigan during the summer, so I can get my fishing in the beach time. And then, you know, middle of fall, usually to about middle of spring, is when I'm really out touring, doing clinics and going out with different groups and small tours. Right now, I'm just in the process of finishing up my second record, and it's entitled Pegasus, after my dog, Pegasus. And it has some great artwork, and we did a lot of analog work with this. You know, we're using SSL, using tape machines, tons of like manipulating a lot of the sounds all by our hands and through effects pedals and controlling everything in real time. Every single drum sound we got, I don't think I've really heard before, and it's none of it's programmed, none of it's manipulated. Like, we literally tried to make stuff sound like samples while not manipulating anything. I mean, it's crazy. So I feel accomplished. Some people might not like it, but for me, it was really fun.
I'm sure it's going to be. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I'm ready. I already have the next 2 records lined up, and once I get the go-ahead, I'm ready to go. So we're taking the second record. You know, there will be transcription of everything that I played on there as the drummer and as the percussionist. And then you're also going to get the play along as well.
We'll play alongs here on Drum Channel.
Yeah, it'll be here. So you'll be able to get ahead of that. So I'm really excited with that. And then, working with Plymouth Rock Studios and my buddy Haruki over there and Third Coast Recording Company, I've been working with a lot as well. And staying super busy, learning.
You're through this whole thing when people are saying things are slowing down. You're like the busiest guy that I know.
Staying
that
so busy.
Keeps going.
Yeah, I love it.
And I can't thank you enough for taking a time out to come out here and join us. This is like phenomenal.
It's phenomenal for me. It's a dream come true. I'm just here to make my mama proud. That's it.
Well, we have a lot of things planned for the future.
We have some very exciting stuff.
Some surprises for everybody out there. We're always big on surprises here.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for sure. Thank you, Scott, so much. I really appreciate it. Yes.
Peace and blessings.
This is your second home. We'll see you here soon.
Coming back.
All right. See you soon.